conceived in a single moment, conquering the hundreds of millions vying for your spot. You arrived despite the odds. You're here, breathing and living. You're lucky to be alive, right? Created before knowing why, and gifted the divine consciousness. Yet, you're satisfied before knowing what fulfills you. Nobody daring enough to channel your latent power. Nobody delusional enough to guide you to the extremes. We will converge at the highest point of the bell curve. We're shown that is the mountain we must conquer. We must reach homeostasis. We must be homogenized. Life's false prophet of love, joy, and purpose sits upon that mount, waiting to save you if only you follow your shepherd. Meanwhile, you elude mysterious misery. You believe it will never be in your company because you have invented happiness. Home is a sea of noise, and the only signal you care about is 5G. You make continuous external deposits. In return, you know who did what and when and where it happened. This is the eternal transaction. You never feel contempt, but rather constant, superfluous joy. You choose what is most familiar, the path of least resistance, the path of the majority. Never one to overpromise, never one to overdeliver, never one to overcome. Is this what it means to be a human? Conceived in a single moment, conquering the hundreds of millions vying for your spot. You arrived despite the odds. You're here, breathing and living. You're lucky to be alive, right? Created before knowing why and gifted the divine consciousness. Yet, you're dissatisfied for not knowing what fulfills you. Somebody daring enough to channel your latent power. Somebody delusional enough to guide you to the extremes. We will diverge from the highest point of the bell curve. We're shown that is the mountain we must leave. We must speed into the desert. We must be students. Life's false prophet of love, joy, and purpose sits upon that mount, overflowing to teach you if only you integrate your eagle and serpent. Meanwhile, you seek mysterious misery. You believe it will be good company because you feel indifferent. You become a sea, and the signal humbles you. You make continuous external withdrawals. In return, you learn who you aren't and what you aren't. This is the eternal transaction. You sense contempt and despise cheap bliss. You choose what is not familiar, the path of many lessons, the path of uncertainty. Never one to overreact, never one to overpower, never one to overwhelm. Is this what it means to be a camel? Conceived in a single moment, preying on the millions of thou shalt before you. You desire to claim the ultimate victory despite the odds. You're here, breathing and living. Your loneliest moments, right? Created before knowing why and gifted the divine consciousness. This is the end, you're told. This is how far you can go. Daring enough to channel your latent power. Delusional enough to master your freedom. We will reach the extremes of the bell curve. We must slay the dragon that awaits. We must conquer our freedom. We must be, I will. Values, thousands of years old, shine on those scales, says the dragon. All values of all things shine on me. All value has long been created, and I am all created value. Verily, there shall be no more I will. Cheerfully, you befriend mysterious misery. You embrace its company to free yourself. You become a sea, and the noise dilutes itself within you. You make continuous internal withdrawals. In return, you discover why. This is the eternal transaction. You once loved and followed the majority. You chose the path of most resistance, the path of one. One to conquer, one to free, one to right. Is this what it means to be a lion? Reborn in a single moment, overcoming the billions before you. You are chaos, born from a dancing star. You are here, conscious. You affirm life. This is a new beginning, you ponder. How far can I go? The child is innocence and forgetting. A new beginning, a game, a self-propelled wheel, a first movement, a sacred yes. For the game of creation, a sacred yes is needed. The spirit now wills his own will, and he who had been lost to the world now conquers his own world. You become a sea of signals, a giant on giants' shoulders. You make continuous internal deposits. This is the eternal transaction. The will to create, the will to overcome, the will to power. Is this what it means to be a child?